behavior. Ethan Klein claimed to have lupus, made money off of it, and then admitted that he made everything up and self-diagnosed himself.
Okay,
This
that's
is such
crazy.
a vile thing to say.
Jake Doolittle was already becoming one of the most obnoxious YouTubers, yet he kept getting worse when he tried to bully and blackmail other content creators into donating to his nonprofit. And this was after the H3 saga, where he accused Ethan of faking an illness, then deleted his video when he got called out for it.
If I were to stand back and watch Ethan lie, saying certain things about him...
Lie? Like, I feel like this is genuinely... I think this might be defamation. To say I'm lying about an illness to make money. I think that might be actual... Might be.
He would have to know that it's not true, and
But he does. He's a fan of the show.
A history of his lies.
Asses, please. If you're standing, sit! No, I've literally never heard that.
Misinformation.
He's breaking down the musical song by song. Are you testing out your fucking vocals?
And self-victimization already showed a toxic pattern of behavior. But his constant need to be the center of attention automatically proves that he's a troublemaker with no remorse.
Oh, Jesus. Holy shit. What the fuck is... Oh. He like throws up. Oh, this is gross.
And when you add all that to the fact that he's awful with apologies, he gaslights his audience by omitting context and constantly uses his illness to deflect criticism, what you are left with is one of the most devastating downfalls on YouTube. When we talk about Jake Doolittle, one thing we need to understand before anything else is his health issues. According to Jake, he struggled with a variety of problems since childhood. In 2016, when Jake was just 15 years old, he started a GoFundMe for $2,500, where he explains his grueling health journey. Hi, I'm Jake. I've been sick for most of my life. If you know me or my mom, you probably know I've been diagnosed by lots of doctors with lots of things. Lyme disease, autoimmune encephalopathy, arthritis, celiac disease, chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalopathy, and my personal favorite, just needing a good shrink. Nothing has been able to fix the headaches I get when I try to think, or read, or concentrate on anything. I've gotten used to the muscle pain. I can do lots of things. I just can't jump, bend at the knees, run, be on my feet for very long. According to Jake, these 6 hard-to-diagnose conditions, like Lyme disease and others, became the reason why he struggled socially throughout his childhood. His school life was destroyed because of this. He said in an interview that other kids and even teachers bullied him, so he never attended middle school, and instead got his education at home. This is why that GoFundMe was so important. It was meant to cover the expense of the hospital trip for him and his mother. The page was a massive success. Within a couple of days, Jake managed to smash his goal and receive almost $3,000 in donations. 1 month later, on March 20th, Jake posted an update on the GoFundMe page. He was telling everyone that he and his mom were finally making the trip, and that the only reason they didn't get first-class seats was because they were sold out. He is just 15 years old, of course, but it's obvious that the tone had shifted from one of necessity to one of luxury. While it is sad that Jake had to grow up constantly struggling with chronic illnesses, this GoFundMe page being a success may have placed unrealistic expectations in Jake's head, particularly in terms of how easy it is to get donations. And trust me, once we hit the never stop part of this video, it's all gonna click, and you won't believe what's coming. Surprisingly, Jake also says on his GoFundMe page that his condition stops him from doing physical things like jumping around, running, or dancing. This is hard to believe, considering there's several clips of him online dancing.
You think you're the drink, bitch? You're not even the cup! This got a middle bump with a low taper and they call him the what?
When I was a kid, call me the juice box, but now I'm the drink. Vegeta's the cup, because he is my father. My son is the drink. I am the cup. I don't give a...
Jake was pretty much a semi-pro dancer who attended and performed at multiple events. This inconsistency with his GoFundMe page was the first reason why people started to doubt the legitimacy of his chronic illness. But things were about to get a million times worse when he became a YouTuber. Jake would start his career as a YouTuber in 2020 and find his home in the commentary space. Most of his videos prior to 2023 was largely described by people to be vapid, boring, and humorless. Sometimes, though, instead of saying a lot of nothing like he usually does, he would draw criticism for some of his commentary. In December of 2022, Jake made a video reacting to Orange Peanut. In the original video, Orange would be making fun of fat acceptance TikToks and roasting their appearance.
So basically, she's saying you to people who say you can't do anything or live your life until you lose weight. And I actually agree with her on this one. There are plenty of things you can do in life when you're obese. Like, for example, die. You can... I'm drawing a blank here, but you can at least die. That's at least one thing you can do. Yeah, I don't know why she's getting so angry here. You know, it's pretty clear that when you're fat, there's less stuff in life you can do.
He makes a few videos like this, and although it's mostly stupid jokes, the objective of videos like that is not to hate on fat people just because, but to make fun of the people who encourage others to stay fat and not exercise. With him being a fitness creator himself, you could view it as part of his broader content, which is to encourage people to work out. It's by no means brilliant content, but it's nothing too controversial. So now let's see how Jake responded to it.
Hi sisters, it's Jake here, and I'm back with another video. Orange Peanut. Now I'm not talking about Donald Trump's testicles. Oh, yeah!
Apart from being cringe and even more unfunny and obnoxious than the original video, Jake tries to come to the defense of the fat acceptance TikTokers, but does an awful job at it. He starts off trying to make fun of Orange Peanut, but struggles to come up with any jokes, funny or otherwise.
It is yet again time to review some fat acceptance TikToks. 3 words that should never ever go together, but
3 words that should never ever go together. Fat acceptance TikToks. Well, I think that it would make sense that they are together, right? Like, wouldn't that be a good thing if you're accepting of your body?
Then Jake begins to awkwardly roast Orange Peanut.
this next person is just.
Do you do any editing? You have an editor, but you can't cut out the fucking flubs in your speech. You say that you did a cutting diet, but you can't cut out your fucking mistakes because your brain is so small.
Top tier delusion. So here we go.
It's also painfully cringe and forced. Obviously, Jake was still trying to get a hold of this style of content, but it's quite clear it doesn't come natural to him. It's not like he doesn't say anything of value by way of criticism toward Orange Peanut in this long 16-minute video. It's that most of the runtime is either boring commentary jokes like we've already seen, or Orange Peanut's video just playing in the background. But this video gets out of hand when Jake accuses Orange Peanut of not caring about consent out of nowhere.
Possibility that you can't do certain things, like bench an unconsenting girl, right, Orange Peanut? Bench an unconsenting girl.
This was mildly unhinged, because assuming someone is a douchebag or a frat guy because they're a gym enthusiast, which is what Jake did with Orange Peanut, is an entirely different thing to just assuming they don't care about consent and are likely to sexually harass girls, which is also what Jake did. As you can imagine, this didn't go down well with Orange Peanut, and he made a video responding to Jake.
Possibility that you can't do certain things, like bench an unconsenting girl, right, Orange Peanut?
Huh? You want to repeat that one for me, Jake? We went from nice, lighthearted roasts about appearances and background and content to all of a sudden you're accusing me of not caring about consent of girls? What the is wrong with you? No, genuinely. I was trying to have a nice, calming roast session, but out of nowhere, you're jumping at me with this crazy accusation when you don't know anything about my life, anything about who I am, and you literally just stated you shouldn't make assumption about people's lives. What annoys me is that he tries to put on this facade of being like this woke savior for fat people and women, when in reality, that is one of the most grimy things you can do, is accuse someone you've never met before and know nothing about of not caring about women's consent. What is wrong with you?
Orange Peanut grills Jake even harder and responds to every point that he made in his video. Jake, facing immense backlash, finally gets on a call with Orange Peanut and they work out the issue, but not before Jake would delete and disable his comment section on the video. He also had his editor cut out his comments about consent out of the video, presumably as a peace offering to Orange Peanut. There's also the matter of Jake constantly mentioning his chronic illness as a joke to get more people to engage with his content.
Also, about 51% of you aren't subscribed, and I heard that those 51% of people hate people with chronic illness. So if you want to prove me wrong, then please subscribe and get me to 200K before the end of the year. Thank you.
It's weird. Even at this point, Jake's Never Stop charity was already up and running, and although being committed to raising funds for it is admirable, the mentions of his chronic illness, and particularly his bad knees, do get excessive. This was the first real red flag in Jake's YouTube career. He made a video without thinking too much about the things he said. He passed it off to an editor and just moved on to the next topic. Then when he started to face criticism, he just shut down his comment section. This wouldn't be the last time either.
To do. Also, do they need bullying? What are you talking about, Orange Peanut? Who needs bullying besides you? You're wearing a chef's apron.
Just 1 month later, in January 2023, Jake would make a video titled, "Not Everything Needs to Be a Brand Deal." In it, he would be discussing some largely inoffensive piece of commercial for Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish, where Antonio Banderas voices Puss as he eats spicy wings for hot ones.
So, Puss, you've fought monsters throughout your adventures. Was there ever a time that you felt nervous or outmatched?
Oh, sorry. I was dreaming of something spicy.
As far as commercials go, this was very much one of the better written ones, and fans of the movie loved it. Jake, on the other hand, didn't.
Puss in Boots can't feel his tail while eating spicy wings. Now, so they got Antonio Banderas to voice this, I guess. It's just an ad for Puss in Boots. That's all it is. You know all the most famous Hot Ones episodes: Millie Bobby Brown, Gordon Ramsay, Billie Eilish, and now Puss in Boots. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, or maybe a tail, and say we don't need this, okay? Not everything needs to be a brand partnership, and I will prove that to you now.
He goes on to complain about a bunch of nothing. He never really mentions why this specific collaboration is bad, he just finds it odd, and therefore he's branded it as soulless or morally bankrupt. It's his opinion, and he is allowed to have one, but the problem is he does the same thing he always does, which is make really awkward jokes.
Of course, it's presented by Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Puss in Boots is hilarious to me. I've always thought that name was a little funny because to me it sounds like that term for like lady parts. You know what I mean? Like I go, Puss, ooh, okay, don't know what to do with this.
And then, in true Jake fashion, he makes an out-of-pocket comment out of nowhere.
Love that confidence.
It's not even
So, Puss,
strong, he
cats
says.
notoriously have 9 lives, but you're on record as saying that this is your last one.
Yeah.
That's kind of depressing. We're going to introduce children to their mortality early. You've been on record as saying that this is your last life. Cats have 9 lives and you've used 8 of them. It seems like the next time that you perish, you'll actually perish. It was nice knowing you, and you better hope the check clears before you croak.
That's just an outright crazy thing to say, considering the entire movie was based around Puss in Boots' mortality. The target audience definitely understand the concept of death. Jake later admits he hasn't seen the movie, or any Puss in Boots movie for that matter, which begs the question, why is he covering a video about Puss in Boots then? Given he knows literally nothing about the subject matter, it's miraculous that he attempted to make an 11-minute video about it. He ended up saying a bunch of nothing, and his audience picked up on it. As soon as Jake started receiving criticism, he once again shut down the comment section.
Building? What's this lore? What's happening? Of course, I haven't seen many of his movies. I don't think I've seen any of his movies. In what context is Puss in Boots on the top of a building falling off?
So regardless of the obvious patterns forming, none of those relatively mild controversies were enough to slow his growth. In fact, throughout 2023, he had managed to get over 200,000 subscribers and was posting quite regularly. But yet again, he decided to sabotage himself by needlessly getting into drama. Just a couple of days before everything came crashing down, Jake posted this on his community tab. A YouTuber with millions of followers pretended to have a chronic illness, profited off of it, then said they made it all up. New video coming soon. Right from the off, Jake seemed to be very passionate about this topic, hyping up the video and getting his audience to speculate on who he might be hinting at. It turned out to be Ethan from the H3H3 podcast, and in it he accuses Ethan of faking his lupus diagnosis and profiting off it.
But I saw a few very concerning things when it comes to Ethan Klein's lupus journey. And as someone who's been sick his entire life, I felt like I needed to make this video.
The video, released on December 29th, was titled, "Ethan Klein, Harmful or Hypochondriac?" In reality, Ethan had a huge health scare and thought he had lupus, so he talked about it on stream. He even showed his medical report and everything. Then, when Ethan found out he didn't have lupus, he admitted it on stream and made fun of himself for the panic.
On June 16th, 2023, Ethan live-streamed an episode of his show, The H3 Podcast. The episode was going fine until Ethan said something unexpected.
This morning, it was going fine until Ethan started opening up, being vulnerable about his scary medical issue.
Lying.
By the way, that morning, I was legit really anxious. And that's why I brought it up, because I was like, I have to be true to myself and talk about this because it's so much on my mind.
Ethan was transparent about all this and never misled his audience at any turn. Jake, in his video, would insist that Ethan deliberately misdiagnosed himself with lupus in order to farm engagement and donations. He would go about this by nitpicking Ethan's description of medical terms and correcting them, even though Ethan never claimed to be an expert on the topic.
My Anna titer. This is also like leukemia and lupus and
First, Anna titer makes no sense. The part that Ethan calls Anna stands for anti-nuclear antibodies. It's an acronym that Ethan pronounces Anna instead of ANA like most every medical professional does. This also adds to my claim of Ethan searching his labs and not hearing the results from an actual doctor due to the mispronunciation.
Jake frames it to seem like Ethan is making his diagnosis up. Throughout the video, Jake positions himself as an authority on the subject and implies that he speaks for everyone with chronic illnesses. Jake also digs into Ethan for using ChatGPT to help interpret his test results.
Reaching out to your doctor after looking at lab results is exactly what they're there for. And the doctor said that there was nothing to worry about. But according to Ethan, ChatGPT made him feel better, saying it's not leukemia, but it could still be lupus? I put this to the test. When talking to ChatGPT with the same lab results, the chatbot consistently says, talk to your doctor and basically don't take anything it's saying as fact, which Ethan had to ignore to get to this point. And from this point on is when Ethan Klein runs with this ChatGPT lupus diagnosis.
The video as a whole was incredibly bad faith, as Jake would also fake claim Ethan's illness and accuse him of misinterpreting his own medical data, thus being harmful to people who actually had the disease. He also called Ethan racist due to the fact that most people with the illness are people of color.
African American, Hispanic / Latina, Asian American,
you're
Native
racist
American,
too, dude.
and other Pacific Islander women than among white women. With all that being said, now that you know a little bit about what lupus is, let's go back to someone who admittedly doesn't know what lupus is.
I don't even know what the lupus is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you said
Got him.
it.
Checkmate.
What a liar.
Here I am being super transparent and upfront about everything.
He also calls Ethan a classist and a liar. This 40-minute long hit piece by Jake would be the beginning of the end for him. Both Ethan's and his own audience jumped to warn him that he's stepping over a line, but he didn't listen.
And self-diagnosed himself. As I'm recording this, yesterday I posted a teaser to this video, and I've received more backlash than I've gotten in a very long time. So much so that somebody from the H3 crew direct messaged me and called me insane for thinking this.
In fact, when Jake made the video announcement on Instagram, it was met with pushback by his own fans. WTF, Jake, I've been watching and liking all your videos for a long time, but you are losing me and many others. I'm a gay socialist, and I'm telling you you're beyond overly sensitive if you think this is a problem. Ethan had genuine health concerns and wondered if it's lupus. Found out it's not, now it's a joke amongst the H3 family. That's it. As someone who watches every pod and donated to be in on the joke, this will be your biggest miss. In response to the multiple comments telling Jake not to go through with this and that Ethan was just joking, Jake responded, "Unfortunately, one of the biggest problems is people calling it a joke. After interviewing 4 people with chronic lupus, they don't find it to be a joke. I was super excited for this. This really seems like a huge stretch. This is you profiting off of what you know is a joke. Saying he made money off this is insane. Time to unsubscribe." Jake was initially determined to stand his ground on the matter, but all that changed as soon as the serious criticisms started to roll in. The video went live and almost nobody was on Jake's side. People with chronic illnesses jumped in to point out that Jake was being gatekeepy and uncharitable. A large majority of his own audience thought he was being a lot more spiteful and bitter than usual. And he was also being bombarded by the rabid fans of Ethan Klein.
Ela, that's a phenomenal question to ask. What could it be? With most lupus diagnoses being based off of symptoms, and according to Ethan, he has none whatsoever, you would think this would be the end of the AI lupus diagnosis.
And so, instead of conceding he's wrong on the matter and apologizing, he decided to start deleting comments, including this one by fellow commentary YouTuber Ryan Beard, where he respectfully says, "From what I can see, it seems like Ethan is a hypochondriac and is using humor to cope with his hypochondria. I also suffer from hypochondria, and it would really suck to have someone make a video like this attacking me if I vented about my health anxiety on the internet. All of your criticisms that Ethan doesn't know what he's talking about are common with health anxiety. You spend hours scouring the internet for possible diagnoses and come to irrational conclusions about your health. That's why health anxiety is classified as a mental disorder." An effective and level-headed comment that explained why people are mad at him, and he still thought it'd be a good idea to delete it. As weeks went by, the video continued to get negative feedback, and the like-to-dislike ratio only got worse. Yet, Jake never took down the video until Ethan returned from vacation and was about to respond to it. Ethan posted a picture of Jake onto his Instagram stories and said he was finally ready to address the situation on the podcast. Jake would then respond with a story post of his own saying, "I will do anything to make this stop. The death threats, telling me to kill myself and saying I was never sick in the first place is something I cannot handle. I was trying to make a video from the perspective of a sick person and it didn't connect with everyone. I was in the hospital last week after posting the video and I legitimately cannot handle anymore. I apologize to everyone involved." The timing of this apology was way too convenient for people because the video had been up for over 2 weeks now, and he only chose now to say anything about it, let alone apologize. On top of this, he also tried to take down the video mere moments before Ethan and the H3 crew reacted to it.
No.
Oh, he just privated it. Well, it's too late, bro.
Oh,
too
is
late.
it now?
That's true.
No, it's too late. It's too late, Jake.
Oops.
Oh my
You
God.
had all 3 weeks to do it, man. He's watching, I'm assuming.
Now, death threats are obviously awful, and nobody should be sending those to Jake, but him trying to act like a victim after releasing a hit piece on a bigger creator only served to rub everyone the wrong way. Ethan and the H3H3 crew would go on to respond to the video in detail and reveal certain details that make Jake look even worse.
Yeah, probably.
Jake, you had 3 weeks, and every comment on the video was like, "This is a bad take. Social media, this is a bad take." Nobody liked.
As it turns out, Jake Doolittle was a super fan of the H3H3 podcast and had called into the show before in 2020. It all happened when Jake was working as a photographer for Charlie D'Amelio, and some of his photos were used without compensation in a book.
I don't know. But stay on the line. I'm going to send you $500 because the D'Amelio family didn't.
That was a nice gesture, right?
What a
man.
The D'Amelio
Yeah.
family
What a man.
didn't pay you 500. I'm going to pay because they're cheap fucking freaks.
It's like a Romeo
Or
and Juliet.
or their team is.
Well, yeah.
When Jake was making some noise about the situation online, Ethan took a call from him and offered him $500 for his struggles. But Jake, spotting his opportunity to get hired by the podcast, decided he would much rather Ethan took a look at his resume instead.
If you look over my resume, can you keep your $500?
Stay on the line. Are you in LA?
He did say he was subscribed.
I'm not in LA. I'm remote, but love
You're
it killing
in
it out
Maine,
of
bro.
Sweden. I bet you I could kill it.
Okay, so stay
I
on
bet
the
you I
line.
could
I'm going to
kill
give you
it
the
out of Maine, I
500.
promise you.
I'm going to give you the 500 to make you whole. And remember, D'Amelio family, Ethan pays on time.
That's right.
And also send your resume. Stay on the hold. We'll get both, okay?
Jake never got hired, though, and he has apparently carried a grudge ever since. He's tried multiple times to get in touch with Ethan or just any member of the podcast crew to collab with them, and he kept getting rejected. One particularly bad example was his interaction with Starkilla, aka AB. Jake offered to take pictures of AB at a Creator Clash event, and when AB refused, Jake would conveniently run into AB a couple of times around the hotel he was staying and made the same offer again. Jake is a photographer after all, so AB eventually caved.
He offered to take pictures of me at the Creator Clash, and I said, I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to be really busy, this and that. And then I met him in the lobby of my hotel, and he said hi, he was really nice. And I seen him a few other times, and then eventually I was like, okay, yeah, he could take pictures because Teddy Fresh made the robe, and I didn't have any professional photos in it, so yeah, he took photos. And then actually I believe that's when he told me that he was the guy that called in, and I connected it. But
after this, Jake would constantly message AB asking for a collab on his channel, and once again, despite AB rejecting him at first, Jake persisted until he got what he wanted. AB and Jake would eventually make a short video together reacting to TikToks.
Hi sisters, today I'm doing a video with my pal AB.
Hello, how's it going?
You know, it's going great, man. I'm so happy to have you here. I've wanted to do a video with you for a while.
I'm new to doing this whole YouTube collab type thing, if that's what you'd call it, but
sure.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, despite AB's kind gesture, Jake didn't get put off making his hit piece on Ethan when AB inquired what was going on. AB texted, "I'm assuming your new video is clickbait, lol," to which Jake responded saying, "Hey buddy, as someone who's dealt with chronic illness and has a non-profit for people with chronic illness, I have to talk about it. The goal is not to cancel anybody, but lying about doctors thinking he has lupus, self-diagnosing on the show, comparing lupus to other more serious diseases, and getting donations in support of a diagnosis he doesn't have, is the problem with online self-diagnosis and feeding on sympathy. After speaking to women who are suffering financially and physically from this illness, I decided to make this video. You're not mentioned at all, but I will be saying how I have relationships with people around him and don't want that to jeopardize anything." So as you can see, multiple people tried to get through to him and he just went through with it anyway, which is precisely why so many people feel like he deserved the public roasting Ethan dished out during the podcast episode. Only after the podcast had aired did Jake finally make an apology video.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to come on here and address the most recent video that I made. In that video, I spoke about a topic that's extremely sensitive to me, which, to be honest, was my first mistake. I let my emotions dictate my actions, and that led to a tone that was confrontational and aggressive. My intention was to stand up for a specific group of people, but instead, I came across as an asshole. I didn't consider how my words would affect others, and for that, I'm very sorry. I've also come to realize that no amount of explanation can undo the impact of that video. And so for the discomfort or hurt that it caused, I also apologize. I recognize that my reaction was partly fueled by my own experiences.
The apology wasn't the best by any stretch of the imagination. He only covered the broad strokes of what happened and he never specifies who he's apologizing to. But all in all, he said he's sorry and explained his thought process, so that was the end of that. Jake was able to move on from the debacle and once again grow his channel. Provided Jake doesn't needlessly self-sabotage like he did so many times in the past, his YouTube career would not only be healthy, but massively successful.
The point of Hot Ones to eat spicy wings and then for the spice to let the celebrities guard down a little bit for them to answer.
But then, in December of 2024, exactly 1 year on from the Ethan Klein drama, Jake Doolittle would post what is arguably his worst ever video and finally put the nail in the coffin on all things Jake Doolittle.
Going to happen. This video is not going to do anything, but I want there to be some kind of mutual understanding between you and I, the audience, that there's no support here.
Never Stop Fund. Before we get to the video itself, we need to briefly talk about Jake's nonprofit organization, Never Stop. The Never Stop Fund supports individuals by offering financial assistance for medical expenses and providing resources to help alleviate the isolation that often comes with chronic illness. Donations and proceeds from the Never Stop collections directly contribute to these efforts. You can make a direct donation to assist with medical costs or shop our exclusive collections. 100% of profits go toward the fund. Jake Doolittle's journey with chronic illness started at just 3 years old, when a tick bite triggered chronic pain, fatigue, and severe migraines. By 3.5, he relied on a wheelchair, and despite years of testing and treatments, doctors couldn't find answers. Eventually, Boston Children's Hospital dismissed his symptoms, claiming it was all in his head, and that he needed to want to get better. School life brought more challenges. Jake often faced isolation as he was labeled a liability due to his need for crutches or a wheelchair. He switched to online schooling, but migraines and pain continued to interrupt his education. In 2017, his knee bones crumbled unexpectedly, leading to 9 surgeries. After the first surgery, Jake experienced mental clarity for the first time in years, allowing him to catch up and graduate on time, earning both high school and college credits. These experiences inspired Jake to create Never Stop, a nonprofit that provides direct financial support to individuals struggling with chronic illness and overwhelming medical bills. Since its inception, Never Stop has donated over $10,000 to people in need, providing financial assistance for medical treatments and daily living expenses. Jake's vision extends beyond financial aid. He aims to build a supportive community, offering hope and resources to those feeling isolated by their conditions. Moving forward, Jake is committed to expanding Never Stop's reach by helping more recipients and increasing the financial aid provided each month. His mission is to make sure others navigating the hardships of chronic illness receive the support they need to keep moving forward. Now, setting up and running a charity like this is sincerely a beautiful thing. But with that said, when the H3 drama unfolded, it drew some unwanted scrutiny into Jake's Never Stop website. For one thing, a lot of the website seemed unfinished. There were no testimonials on the site, there was no information on available resources, or much of anything else. There were forms you could fill if you intended to apply for the charity or volunteer to be part of the team. These were Google Forms, and some people criticized Jake for using them since they're known to not be the safest way to collect information, especially personal and medical information, which is what applicants would have to give up.
This is the Never Stop Fund application form. People were wondering about the security of this. When you upload your tax return or any proof of disability or food stamps or government programs, the file is only shared with my personal email, not the Google Workspace.
But by far the biggest red flag raised was the clothing store. On the website, it said 100% of the income from sales would go into the Never Stop Fund. But people spotted that in a few videos, Jake said only 10% actually goes into the fund.
Please check out my fund and clothing brand for people with chronic illness, Never Stop. I have a lot of cool, exciting designs out, and I've got pins and stickers coming soon, so definitely check it out. 10% of the proceeds go to someone in need. Also, if you feel like it, you can donate to the Never Stop Fund. 10% of all profits from the clothing brand go into the fund, so either way, you're helping people out.
So this isn't just a small nitpick, but something that could be classified as fraud if you're willing to go that far. To reiterate, it said on the website that 100% of the proceeds from the clothing store goes into the fund, but in select few videos, he said with his own mouth that only 10% does instead. That's very confusing to say the least.
The one that we're currently trying to rebuild, but as you can see, prior to the controversy, I literally was trying to figure out how to add pages to different Shopify tabs.
But this was honestly just mismanagement and a logistics error by Jake, because he would address this issue in that same apology after the Ethan Klein drama.
Lastly, there's a lot of speculation about my nonprofit Never Stop, so I thought that I would just address those as well. The clothing brand started in 2017, like selling things to family and friends. And then in 2022, when I got a platform, I decided to give 10% of all profits to people in need. And then there was such an overwhelming amount of need for donations that I decided in 2023 to turn it into an official nonprofit so that people's donations would be tax deductible. Since Never Stop is a new and small organization, I pay all the startup fees so that the donations can go to people who need them. And I do hope that someday Never Stop can sustain itself, but it's just not there yet.
So he's basically saying that the clothing brand and the charity had always been two separate entities, and he simply linked the two for his convenience. Only 10% of the income from the clothing store did go into the fund, and that wouldn't change until 1 year later when he made the apology video following another huge drama.
Never Stop Clothing was first, and then I liked the name Never Stop and started Never Stop Fund. I didn't want to get rid of Never Stop Clothing, so I made them two separate entities. And in retrospect, that's confusing. And if I could do it over again, I would just have personal merchandise and the Never Stop Fund with maybe not the same name. But I thought since there were two different URLs, it would be better. I don't know. And I apologize for the confusion. On the upside though, since there's been so much confusion and so many questions, 100% of all of the profits from the Never Stop clothing brand now go into the fund. And the reason why the websites are so fucky is because I am trying to merge two websites into one and still have the clothing brand, but also have the old website website redirect to the new one.
It's all just a big avoidable mess, which is the same story as with every single drama that Jake has gotten himself into up till this point. And with that said, it's finally time we cover the infamous blackmail video. In typical Jake Doolittle fashion, he posted a video out of nowhere that torpedoed his career once again. On December 9th, 2024, he posted a video titled, "I'm Frustrated with Commentary YouTubers," and it had I'm Alex and Cody Ko on the thumbnail, even though the video wasn't in the slightest talking about them. Clickbait thumbnail aside, the content of the video is actually way worse. He would be expressing his frustration over the fact that other YouTubers hadn't donated to his charity, and he starts off the video by admitting that this is something he's wanted to make for a while now.
Hello everyone, today is going to be a little bit of a different video because I am frustrated with a lot of your favorite creators. I've been wanting to make this kind of video for quite a long time. I've been very nervous to do it because I didn't want to burn bridges, but at this point, who gives a...
That's an important piece of information right there. That means he's been thinking about blackmailing his friends for a while, and only now just got the courage to actually do it. Anyway, Jake gets into the history of Never Stop, revealing that he's sunk thousands of dollars into the project, and so he complains that no other YouTuber has ever inquired or donated to Never Stop.
But there has been no YouTuber who has ever inquired or donated any money to Never Stop. I've actually even sent merchandise to creators to try to get them to talk about Never Stop, and it only worked with one, and that person wasn't even a YouTuber. It was a singer. It was a songwriter. And
this is already insane. He mentions the one YouTuber who helped promote Never Stop in such an ungrateful tone, and then he's also talking about other YouTubers who've rejected the opportunity to either donate or promote Never Stop like they're all obligated to do so. It reeks of entitlement, and things only got worse from here.
And throughout this video, I'm not going to name names, but I would like you to know that I am going to name names at some point, possibly next month or so, if my following up with these people amounts to nothing and I keep getting ghosted. A lot of these YouTubers love talking about holding people accountable for their wrongdoings and all that kind of shit. But when I try to say, hey, if you have any extra money, we are giving $500 a month. I know that you just put on your close friend story that you're making 15 grand off this brand deal. Hey, I would love the help. My views are down, but you're getting, I don't know, 50,000 subs a month. What are we doing here?
So he's not just entitled, he's outright threatening to name people who didn't donate to his charity and publicly shame them. This is textbook blackmail. The fact that he just assumed his charity is the only one worth donating to, or even the implication that if they're not donating to his charity, then they're not donating to any charity, is another example of Jake Doolittle lacking even the tiniest bit of self-awareness.
I want someone to tell me why US senators and representatives are more likely to work with me than other influencers in the commentary space who I have talked to within the last 6 months. How come other nonprofits that are doing between $10 and $30 million a year in donations are willing to talk to me, but these YouTubers cannot give $500 in a one-time payment out of their, I don't know, 50 grand that they're making a month?
If US senators and large nonprofit organizations are willing to work with him, then why on earth is he complaining about influencers and YouTubers? You would think the former are more important to him than the latter, but I guess not. Then to add on to this, he goes on to call people stupid for not recognizing that they can write off the expense in their taxes.
By the way, all of this you can write off on your taxes. I don't know how many times I have to say this. These are people who are getting a ton of money and will not know what to do at tax time. And this is a way to offset that tax bill. But I guess there's no knowledge there.
From here, he goes on to give examples, without naming names, of people he's asked for support and never got back to him. He says Never Stop is the only nonprofit who gives directly to the people, even though that's obviously not true. Then he goes on to reveal that he asked a fellow creator for advice and got told that the Ethan Klein drama has permanently tanked his credibility.
So I got on the phone with this person and I'm like, hey, I've had no support from other influencers and that's really bothered me and I don't quite know how to go about it. And they were very honest and I call them because they're very honest. And because I made a video that wasn't received well a year ago, people don't want to work with me. But the problem is, when you're putting out as much fucking content as I am, there's going to be videos that aren't received well. I feel like that's simple math. Just in the last 6 months, I've posted 73 videos. Who else is doing that? And this is not to flex, this is not to be like a fucking show off, but I am working my ass off.
Jake is being very dishonest here. First of all, describing the entire Ethan drama as just a video that wasn't received well is a ridiculously kind way to put it. He wrongfully accused Ethan of trying to fake an illness to profit off of it, and then called him a racist classist. The fact that Jake refuses to directly mention what the drama was about tells you all you need to know.
And at some point, there are going to be videos that aren't perceived as well as I'd like them to be. Or there's going to be times where allegations turn out to be false, and then we have to backtrack. That is the job that we are in.
Then, secondly, considering his charity is also about people with chronic illnesses, it's perfectly reasonable that we wouldn't want to work with him, given he actually accused somebody of faking a chronic illness. He wants to make it out like the two things have nothing to do with each other, but they are somewhat related.
Sorry. And to go back to that call that I had with that person, who I respect a lot, this person said that they were hesitant to work with me again because they were nervous about how it would be perceived over one video that I made 1 year ago.
As you can imagine, the fallout from this video was very bad. Jake did not get any sympathizers. This time the video wouldn't last 3 weeks because only a couple of hours later he took it down. He also went crazy with the censorship. Jake struck down any archive channels who re-uploaded the video as he continued to spiral.
Yeah, and you know what sucks is like every single time that like there's a health thing going on, I'll post like a random thing, and then that's what will get me in trouble, you know?
One day later, Jake continued to make the situation worse by going live on Instagram from his phone whilst he was at the hospital prepping for knee surgery. He vaguely talked about the situation, but it was quite obvious the only reason he did it was so he could get some sympathy from people.
Looking into, well, I dropped out of my college program because I can't handle it because of my recent health stuff. I released like a video like 2 days ago that was really bitter and annoyed. So this is me just checking in, saying hello, apologizing. You know, I texted a few creators and said, hey, sorry about this. I appreciate you. And, you know, it was stupid anyways.
Just like last time, he pops up saying he apologizes, but never specifies what he's apologizing for. In reality, he orchestrated his live so he could deflect attention from Ethan Klein, who was just about to cover his situation on the podcast. Just like last time, he tried to stop Ethan from doing it and failed.
He says, hey, can this wait? I'm actively in the hospital. Bro, don't try to emotionally blackmail me. I do not give a...
You know what? If his videos have shown me anything, I need to see proof. I need a doctor to write it off to say that you're in the hospital.
Yeah, I don't really believe you, Jay.
Bro, are you crazy? You think you're gonna emotionally manipulate me into not watching this? Are you crazy, bro?
After this, Jake would make one final attempt to fix the whole situation. He posted a nearly 30-minute video onto his channel, and most of that runtime would be filled by Jake talking about his illness, even though he does admit that he shouldn't have posted the video to begin with.
And I felt much worse. I was kind of riding a high of feeling okay. And then I started to get pains that mimicked a lot of what I felt prior to the first round of my surgeries. So I was on the phone with my surgeon and insurance trying to get an MRI approved, but it wasn't able to be approved because I needed an x-ray first. I recorded that video with no notes or preparation. It was 45 minutes as a raw file, and I sent that off to be edited and thumbnailed. It came back as 15 minutes, and I dragged and dropped it into YouTube Studio, attached the thumbnail, and said it, which was probably one of the worst choices I could have made, but I think that's kind of where my mind was at the time. I had also been declined for disability insurance because since I'm self-employed, I don't meet the requirements of disability insurance.
It's all over the place. The video once again reeks of Jake not really understanding why he's being criticized. That's unfortunately a recurring theme with Jake. When he apologizes, he never truly apologizes, but instead machine guns through several different excuses for why he did what he did.
I would have never done that had I known they would be in front of hundreds of thousands of people.
Jake shows all the signs of a dude whose entitlement, narcissism, and sense of importance take control of him way too often. Every time he dares to do something controversial, his hypocrisy and lack of self-awareness is on display for everyone to see.
Because you have made it so that I have to do this, I will show you all of the medical records that I have on hand and also scans of the inside of my knee proving to you that this has all actually happened.
As a result of that, Jake harms his own charity, Never Stop, which is inadvertently getting dragged down with his reputation. This makes Jake Doolittle a textbook example of somebody who has good intentions, but goes about achieving them in the worst way possible.
Well, I carry that weight as well because I'm my only friend. I guess I could say I'm the fattest, the skinniest, the hottest, the ugliest. It's just me, myself, and...
And if you want to see someone else completely destroy their reputation, then check out our video on Gucci Third Leg, one of the worst OF creators out there.